The top stories of the week with added depth and also context from our team of reporters we here like to call the Daily Debrief. Hello, everyone. I'm Ty Quinones. Well, viewers like you are asking for more depth, and here is exactly where you're going to find it. So let's jump right in. The last major concert these organizers staged wound up with 9 people dead in Houston, and now they are bringing a music festival right here to the Valley.
It's called Day in Vegas at the Las Vegas Festival grounds. Safety is top of mind across the board. 13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears digs into the dynamics of crowd control.
No one wanted anyone to die at that festival, but individually and together, they created an environment in which people could die.
Paul Wertheimer has decades of experience with crowd dynamics. He was working for the city of Cincinnati in 1979 on the night of disaster at a concert by rock band The Who.
I came down there that night after the disaster was evident, 11 deaths, and the fans were inside.
Wertheimer was appointed chief of the task force to prevent another tragedy, authoring a first-of-its-kind report that's still used to this day. It identified festival seating or general admission as a primary concern.
We've known since 1979 or since 1980, the release of the report, the dangers of festival seating standing room, arguably the most dangerous crowd configuration at concerts and festivals.
He explains that the absence of assigned seating or designated areas creates a free-for-all environment.
Because everyone who has a festival seating general admission ticket has a right to be in that perfect spot in front of the mic of the lead singer.
Crowd surge, says Wertheimer, is totally preventable, noting safety codes from the National Fire Protection Association that address crowd density and management.
But the Achilles heel for promoters is it reduces their profit.
Lower density usually means selling fewer tickets. So who's ultimately responsible for safety, and what role do performers like Travis Scott play?
So Travis Scott has at least a moral responsibility.
He says artists have great power and sway over the crowd, but there's a limit.
The artist has to make sure that he doesn't take it over the top. And the artist actually has to realize that he doesn't have ultimate power to stop things when they do go over the top.
Wertheimer cautions performers shouldn't be scapegoats. Large concert events like EDC, Life is Beautiful, and Burning Man all have event operation plans designed to address crowd safety and risk management. Wertheimer says the plan he saw for Astroworld was lacking.
We know that they didn't even address the crowd in front of the stage, didn't even address safety concerns for festival seating and dense crowds and crowd crushing, crowd surge, crowd collapse, moshing, stage diving, crowd surfing, not even mentioned in the report.
Which he calls a devastating omission.
If it's not mentioned in the crowd management plan, then there's no way to address an emergency situation with the crowd because nobody knows what to do.
Wertheimer says many share the blame in the Houston tragedy.
It's a complete failure. Responsible parties for this disaster are the people who planned the event, managed the event, profited from the event, and approved the event,
including the Houston area public safety agencies that signed off on the operations plan. We asked to see Metro's operations plan for this weekend's Day in Vegas festival, but they wouldn't share it, citing security reasons.
They can take steps now, if they hadn't before, to modify their plan and absolutely make sure nothing like this that happened in Houston happens in Las Vegas.
Metro is asking those questions.
Is it possible that that could happen here?
Holding a joint agency briefing Tuesday with fire departments, highway patrol, and even the FBI, running through multiple scenarios and coordinating emergency response. They also provided a statement saying they're working closely with organizers and want to assure the public we're doing everything we can to keep them safe. Production company Live Nation announced Travis Scott will no longer be performing at Day in Vegas. Live Nation says crowd safety and security is always their top priority, but when we asked what updated precautions they would be taking, they didn't respond. Circus Circus, that manages the Las Vegas Festival grounds, also did not respond to our request for comment. Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.
We'll be back now with more of the Daily Debrief after the break.
It's about time to watch on your time. Not just when news is on the air, but streaming 24/7. At this time, or this time, or anytime. The only way to stream 24/7. 13 Action News. It's about time we fit into your schedule. Streaming local news 24/7. Search for 13 Action News on your device. The coronavirus is changing lives, and families across the valley don't know where to turn for help. That's why 13 Action News created the Rebound Las Vegas. It's everything you need to get back on track in one convenient place. From dealing with stress to unemployment to putting food on your table, plus how you can lend a hand to help others in our community. The Rebound Las Vegas will get through this difficult time together. Go to ktnv.com/Rebound Las Vegas because we all need a little help to bounce back.
There's a deep racial divide between police and the Black community.
Black Lives Matter!
Join 13 Action News each week as we confront the realities of race. From incidents of brutality that broke our trust to how we move forward together. We'll continue the conversation with community leaders, professors, activists, and law enforcement. It's tough to talk about, but you deserve answers. Bridging the Divide, only on 13 Action News.
13 Action News from Alexa. News from your neighborhood. Hands-free for your convenience. For more information, go to ktnv.com/apps. 13 Action News from Alexa. Sponsored by Silver State Schools Credit Union. Prioritizing people over profit.
The future of television has arrived. Next-gen TV is here with stunning video, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future.
And welcome back to the Daily Debrief, an in-depth look at the top stories of the week. For more details on any of the stories that we're talking about here, just head to ktnv.com.
My name is Amy Abdel-Sayed. This weekend, Las Vegas is playing host to Day in Vegas all weekend long, and Travis Scott will not perform as originally planned. He has since dropped out since Astroworld. 13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears is looking into concert safety and crowd control. Darcy, in your research for this story, did you come across anything in Las Vegas history specifically that was similar to Astroworld?
Not from crowd surge itself, without any other factors. Of course, there were stampede type injuries at the Route 91 Harvest Festival during the shooting, but that obviously is a very different situation. When you are looking for crowd surge deaths and injuries at concerts, you actually, and again, without any other aggravating circumstances, you do have to look outside of Las Vegas. And there are a number of other examples that we came across in our research that, are scary and involved a lot of casualty.
When you look at the David Cassidy concert, and I don't know how many of our viewers or listeners are going to remember who David Cassidy is, but at White City Stadium in West London back in May of 1974, more than 700 people were injured, and there was actually a 14-year-old girl who died following a crowd surge at that concert. If you look at, of course, Christmas of 1979, lots and lots of people are aware of the 11 people who died after a crowd surge of people attempting to get into a concert by the rock band The Who. That was to be held at a major venue in Cincinnati. And in our story, of course, we interviewed an expert who was a first responder at that particular concert and used that experience to develop an action plan for ways to avoid something like that happening again. If you look back to Denmark, a Pearl Jam concert in 2000, 8 people died of suffocation and a 9th person died at the hospital following a performance there. Again, that was a first come, first serve festival seating blamed for that tragedy as concert goers rushed to try to get inside before all the doors had been opened. So that was at least kind of an explanation. I know we're still waiting for an explanation as to what happened in Houston. In 2010, more than 1.4 million people reportedly showed up to attend a festival in Germany. Multiple DJs spinning techno music. There was a reported crowd surge there that ended in 21 people dead following the stampede, with more than 500 people injured. So that gives you an idea kind of going throughout the United States and in fact around the world of different events and concerts where things like that have happened, separate from anything that we've seen in Las Vegas, because again, our big event here, of course, had a very different set of circumstances that explained that crowd stampede and the injuries that it caused at Route 91.
With how many concerts Las Vegas has had in the past, do law enforcement or experts have anything to point to as to why we haven't?
You know, if you ask them, they'll probably say that proper planning, that they had the scenarios and that they had the communication and that they had the response and the plans in advance to deal with something like that if it happened. I honestly think, even though we just laid out a set of different scenarios for you where it did happen over the years, it doesn't happen very often. So, and our expert says with a little bit of proper planning and the way things are set up, you can avoid that before it happens. So hopefully that means that they've planned things well before with other shows, and that the same will hold true for Day in Vegas.
I think Metro tweeted out a video showing a joint agency training session or some kind of conference discussing Day in Vegas safety. What do we know about that?
Well, that briefing, which happened earlier this week, included representatives from city and county fire, from NHP, emergency medical services, event organizers, even the FBI. And what they did was they ran through potential security incidents and scenarios. You could tell by the slides that they showed in that Twitter video that they were doing what they call low stress exercises. And those are to generate conversation and ideas about how to provide the safest possible experience. Metro has said specifically that the festival grounds and the areas around the stages at Day in Vegas have barricades that cannot be pushed or toppled over. They also said that there is a lot of open space, and I was down there at the festival grounds earlier today, and there is a ton of open space. And they've also made sure that there are easy to access emergency exits if anything happens around any of the stages. So it seems like the stage is set for safety, and hopefully that holds true. I know that there's a very heightened awareness and commitment to making sure that there is no repeat of those events in Houston.
We'll be back now with more of the Daily Debrief after the break.
If you look around, you'll find them.
Stories about people doing extraordinary things right here in our city.
We've persevered because we've counted on each other and we've worked together.
People helping others. Pitching in when someone else is down and needs a hand getting back up.
Getting a stuffed animal that'll make them feel like they're loved by other people.
Inspirational stories that'll make you laugh and smile.
We call these stories Positively Las Vegas.
Only on 13 Action News, and now streaming on your favorite device. 13 Action News' Zora Asbury.
If there's one thing that I know, it's guiding drivers through traffic. Now, I may be new to town, but I'll make sure you have the smoothest route ahead. Count on me every morning. I'm checking roads, keeping an eye on all those trouble spots, showing you the best way to get around quickly and safely. If you're driving to work, school, or just running errands, I've got your back.
Zora Asbury's Problem Solver Traffic on Good Morning Las Vegas, weekdays starting at 4:30.
I love coming up here. That's why I know it's important to have an accurate, reliable forecast so you and your family can get out and make the most of your day too.
Real weather from real people. Danny Beckstrom, part of the 13 First Alert Weather Team, only on 13 Action News. Look into the faces of those who live here and you'll see it. A powerful spirit and pride you won't see anywhere else. Friends and neighbors coming together to help and offer hope to those in need. Building for the future, taking care of one another. Here we celebrate life and rise to every challenge. We are different, we are diverse, we are strong, and we share a common goal, working hard to make our city in the desert the best place to call home. Together, we bring out the best in us. Together, home is Las Vegas. Get ready for the heat because Las Vegas is about to sizzle. On the days you just can't deal, crank the AC and turn to your 13 First Alert Weather Team. Danny Beckstrom, Justin Bruce, Kelsey McFarland, and Bree Guy. We'll break down which days will be a scorcher and when we'll get some relief. Know what to wear, when you can walk your dog, or just run some errands. We'll pinpoint the best times to be outside and when you need to head for the shade. Your 13 First Alert Weather Team, keeping Las Vegas cool.
And welcome back to the Daily Debrief, an in-depth look at the top stories of the week. For more details on any of the stories that we're talking about here, just head to ktnv.com.
Our newsroom-wide initiative looks into the challenges the growth of Las Vegas presents. We call it Meadows to Metropolis.
And so tonight, traffic anchor Zora Asbury now takes a deep dive into the future of transportation here in the Valley and also how it will now have a big impact on our lives as we continue to grow from Meadows to Metropolis.
I think this is an incredible time here for Southern Nevada. If you are involved in innovative transportation, this is the place to be, Clark County, Nevada. You've got everything from autonomous testing going on with Halo and autonomous rental cars. You've got the Vegas Loop project that we just approved recently that's going to move thousands and thousands of people underground in an efficient way, in a safe way.
In a time when it seemed like the entire world shut down, Las Vegas continued to work.
Because of that, we have a brand new NFL stadium that otherwise we wouldn't have had. We have the connection of the Boring Company was able to successfully complete the 3 stations at the Las Vegas Convention Center.
The traffic woes on some of our major arteries like the I-15, which is part of the freight system, alerted state officials to bottlenecks like the one at the Nevada-California state line.
To get to the routes through the rest of the country, it has to pass through I-15 and Southern Nevada.
We cannot go weekend after weekend after weekend of seeing these backups as people return home.
Reducing those freight choke points is top of mind for officials like Christina Swallow, director of the Nevada Department of Transportation.
We're currently updating our freight plan, and that freight plan is going to look at where the bottlenecks are on our corridors. So what do we need to do to address those bottlenecks within the limits of the state?
America's population is expected to grow substantially by 2045, especially here in the West.
They actually anticipate between now and 2030 an increase in population here in Southern Nevada of 400,000 people, bringing us to over 2.6 million people in Clark County. So we're very aware of those estimations and we're working with them to figure out what that looks like on our transportation system.
So how do we move forward faster, safer, and more efficiently?
It takes so many great partnerships and entities throughout the valley, like NDOT, RTC, and then private enterprises like the Boring Company to all come together and help to putting a solution in place.
Part of that is taking advantage of the transportation options that we already have in place, like the RTC.
We have a cohesive plan on what we want to do looking out into the future. And that's really important because that is what enables us to get federal funding, getting our money back here to Nevada.
Their new initiatives is RTC On Demand. It serves like a rideshare service, but for buses.
You can book a ride on the app. It'll pick you up at your doorstep. It'll take you to any of the destinations within that service area.
To combat congestion even further, experts are looking below ground, where we are already seeing a growing network of underground transportation with the LVCVA Convention Center Loop.
The LVCVA says that the Convention Center Loop is really a precursor to the future of transportation. With the SEMA conference, they were able to transport the most passengers that they've been able to transport, which really shows them what they can do for the Vegas Loop.
We just learned that 96,000 passenger rides were given just during that show alone. So it shows that the system has the capability to move guests around our campus, and the even larger application for the Vegas Loop that the Boring Company is now planning on taking destination-wide. And we believe this is the future of transportation in Southern Nevada.
As the population continues to grow, Clark County is looking at ways to cut down on emissions by having fewer cars on the road and encouraging more people to take other modes of transportation. The end result, cleaner air and safer streets. Reporting, Zora Asbury, 13 Action News.
We'll be back now with more of the Daily Debrief after the break.
I love coming up here at the end of my day. There is nothing as beautiful as a desert sunset. Just look at these colors and check out the view. That's why I know it is so important to have an accurate, reliable forecast so you and your family can get out and make the most of your day too. When it's not too windy, skies are clear, and the air quality is best. I'm tracking it all, and I'll show you what to expect.
Real weather from real people. Danny Beckstrom, part of the 13 First Alert Weather Team, only on 13 Action News. Every morning brings something new your way. The Strip, back open for business. Moms and dads returning to the office. And lots of places you can now be together. Good Morning Las Vegas helps you keep track of it all with in-depth coverage of what you missed overnight. More live reports out of the studio and into your neighborhood, and positive stories that will make you smile. Good Morning Las Vegas, for morning people like you. Weekdays 4:30 to 7.
If you look around, you'll find them.
Stories about people doing extraordinary things right here in our city.
We've persevered because we've counted on each other and we've worked together.
People helping others. Pitching in when someone else is down and needs a hand getting back up.
Getting a stuffed animal that'll make them feel like they're loved by other people.
Inspirational stories that'll make you laugh and smile.
We call these stories Positively Las Vegas.
Only on 13 Action News, and now streaming on your favorite device. 13 Action News' Zora Asbury.
If there's one thing that I know, it's guiding drivers through traffic. Now, I may be new to town, but I'll make sure you have the smoothest route ahead. Count on me every morning. I'm checking roads, keeping an eye on all those trouble spots, showing you the best way to get around quickly and safely. If you're driving to work, school, or just running errands, I've got your back.
Zora Asbury's Problem Solver Traffic on Good Morning Las Vegas, weekdays starting at 4:30.
And welcome back to the Daily Debrief, an in-depth look at the top stories of the week. For more details on any of the stories that we're talking about here, just head to ktnv.com.
I'm Jordan Gartner, and today we are talking about transportation in Las Vegas and what the future is looking like. Zora Asbury is covering this topic, and Zora, it seems like a few projects are already happening. What did you find in your report?
Well, you know, Jordan, I went through and I talked to all of the major entities that have anything to do with transportation. So if that's RTC, NHP, LVCVA, I wanted to really talk to them and see what they had in store for the future. Now, I know that we're all familiar with the LVCVA Convention Center Loop, and what's really interesting is that started off as kind of a test to see if they could potentially move thousands of people underground. And when they did that, they held the SEMA conference about last week and realized that they could carry more passengers than they ever have. And they did that with about 50,000 plus passengers. So that really set the tone for what's possible with the Vegas Loop. Now, the Vegas Loop was recently approved with the county commissioner's office. And so what we know now is when it's completed, it will be able to connect upwards of 50 different venues together underground. So really getting those tourists and of course the locals alike to and from where they need to go, anywhere from the airport all the way up to Resorts World.
Yeah, Dan, when it comes to the Vegas Loop, who is behind it? And do you think how far is the project looking at expanding?
So the Boring Company is the main force behind the Vegas Loop. And so they've been working very closely with the LVCVA. And I think this is really going to be a game changer. We talk about the future of transportation. I think a lot of these companies are working towards getting more people off of the roads, or if not off the roads, get more people in one vehicle, get them on the bus, get them on a train, metro rail, and then of course the Vegas Loop. And so really the push is for a cleaner economy, safer streets, and more people getting where they need to go fastly and efficiently.
Awesome. And of course, when it comes to traffic, we've all seen the traffic, on a Sunday evening starting to back up, heading with travelers heading back to California. Any plans like from the state when it comes to helping those drivers or maybe even widen the I-15?
Absolutely. So we've heard a couple of interviews over the past few months from Governor Sisolak, from Mayor Carol Goodman as well. And we did also talk to NDOT, and they did tell us that they do have plans on potentially widening that bottleneck at the state line of California and Nevada. So what we know right now, it's a one-lane highway in each direction. And like you mentioned, on the weekends when folks are going back to California, it can cause quite the backup there. And so I think they're really working on how can they widen those roads? Can they add additional lanes? But it is something that will take both states' cooperation. So that's the major issue with that problem.
And when it comes to construction, if you're new in the Valley or if you're local for years, of course, I've seen it really in every corner of Southern Nevada. But is there an end to it?
That's a great question. So construction is one of those things that's a precursor to innovation. And so when I moved here, I noticed how much construction that we have, and really it's all over the valley. And so I know construction can be really frustrating, but I do think as we push towards more economical ways to transport folks and of course more electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, I think we'll really reduce some of that above ground construction, especially as they start to build more things underground, like with the Vegas Loop.
Is there certain areas that you're seeing that maybe have kind of more construction than others?
Well, one of the major construction projects that has really been broken down by NDOT is going to be Boulder Highway, a long stretch of Boulder Highway all the way from the Spaghetti Bowl further south, almost to Boulder. Boulder City is going to see some construction. And so what they've done is they've broken it down into 4 different parts, and they're really informing the public on how they can avoid that construction and what to know and what to really understand about what's going on in their area and how they can avoid those areas.
Very cool. All right. And then when it comes to some of the futuristic transportation options being discussed, and of course, what is already in motion, what are some of the benefits that everybody is looking forward to getting out of as we move forward, with the futuristic options?
Absolutely. So with so many options, it will really allow people in the Valley, whether they're visitors or if they do live here, to find any alternate mode of transportation besides just getting in their car. So that could be the bus, it could be a metro rail, it could be the Vegas Loop. If they're there for a business conference at the LVCVA, they could be using the convention center loop as well. So really, I think what they're trying to do is make transportation safer for folks, make it more efficient. Of course, less cars on the road means less emissions. And so I really think they want to transport people safely, but also do it in an efficient manner as well.
Well, thanks for watching the Daily Debrief on your streaming device. Remember, if you missed any part of this week's program, just hit the back button on your remote, then scroll down until you see KTNV Digital Exclusives. There, you're going to find this show and also all of our dedicated streaming content. And stay tuned for more from 13 Action News after the break. And of course, check us out anytime here on KTNV Streaming Las Vegas News on your time.
Look into the faces of those who live here and you'll see it. A powerful spirit and pride you won't see anywhere else. Friends and neighbors coming together to help and offer hope to those in need. Building for the future, taking care of one another. Here we celebrate life and rise to every challenge. We are different, we are diverse, we are strong, and we share a common goal. Working hard to make our city in the desert the best place to call home. Together, we bring out the best in us. Together, home is Las Vegas.
If you look around, you'll find them.
Stories about people doing extraordinary things right here in our city.
We've persevered because we've counted on each other and we've worked together.
People helping others. pitching in when someone else is down and needs a hand getting back up.
Getting a stuffed animal that'll make them feel like they're loved by other people.
Inspirational stories that'll make you laugh and smile.
We call these stories Positively Las Vegas.
Only on 13 Action News, and now streaming on your favorite device.